Let's bring in the last installment of landing on an iron head as you consider getting fit. I'm going to talk with you about the high-tech irons that are coming out. This is a newer design. Let me explain a little bit about what's happening here. As we learned to, as the manufacturers, I should say, learned to develop a spring face in your drivers to give you that little extra pop, to give you those little extra yards. It's called CORE, coefficient of restitution. That basically talks about the amount of flex that your driver head has as it rebounds after hitting, as it hits the ball. Well, we're able to design that into irons now. And this one's, this is one of my demo clubs, a little bit, well used, but I want to talk with you about the Wishon 771 series. Okay, the body of this, as you can see, is a big, it's a big cavity back, and it is a cast carbon steel, just as soft as some of the blades and forge clubs that we talked about in previous videos, but a little bit different here. In the face is pressed a high strength engineered steel face that, and you can kind of see it back here in the cavity. You can see that you've got some milling marks kind of in an archway, and this is engineered to give you the same spring face effect that you get off of your drivers, and it's now available on irons. What's interesting about these clubs, and many that have been designed since like that, first of all, Tom Wishon has been designing this type of club for close to 12 years now. He's kind of been a pioneer in bringing spring face technology into irons. Most of your major OEMs are just now starting to offer something, and they'll call it a flex face or a hot face, those types of things. But basically, it's a spring face iron. The spring face iron, some interesting characteristics that we're noticing as we take a look at how a spring face performs versus a face that's not designed to flex at impact. You will get a touch higher flight from the same lofts on these spring face irons. And due to the design of the irons, they're a very forgiving club. And so it's a very large face. You can kind of see the undercut cavity in this head on how that goes back quite a ways there and makes the face very large, unsupported, up until the perimeter. You'll see a lot of companies that will put little channels along, just behind the face here, or along the top line, or I've even seen them out on the toe, and that's all for it's all the marketing department doing their job in catching your eye. Technologically doesn't do too much unless that face has been specifically engineered at normal ball speeds, testable ball speeds, to flex and to give you that coefficient of restitution, or CT. There's a number of ways to explain that. But anyway, these are the high-tech clubs. I fit a lot of amateur golfers into this because they're very forgiving. A lot of senior golfers that have been losing some distance. And the ladies, some of the females and girls that I work with that need to get that little extra pop to give them a little extra advantage, I put them into these. They have a semi-wide sole, as you can see. They have a touch of offset. It's not like a forged blade that just has almost a straight line between the front of the hosel and the front of the blade. These have a touch of offset just to give your eye the ability to frame the face a little bit more. But again, a larger, forgiving kind of game improvement orientation there. And so that is the 771 of Wishon's design. And great feeling club head. They're very hot feeling. You definitely know that you've got a spring face. Those of you that have hit a persimmon club or a laminated maple club head, back in the day, and then now you're using, both stainless steel fairways and big old titanium headed drivers, that hot sound that you're having with your drivers and your fairway woods now, these irons have a touch of that. So some companies try to mute that. I like to celebrate that, and these will give those to you. So that's some of the new high-tech designs available. The 771, wide range of fitting options. You don't have to be, just a recreational golfer. If this fits your eye and you like the feel and sound of them, great performing head. So one of the interesting things that has been developing over the last number of years is the single length iron concept. Let me bring in a couple examples of those heads. This is the Sterling series. You may have seen some television advertising on these. And so, from a custom club fitter, this really gives us an interesting development in improving your golf game and making this kind of difficult game a little easier. The Sterling heads are designed like an 8-iron. Every head is the same weight and lie of an 8-iron. It creates, some challenges because you don't have a lighter 3-iron or 4-iron head and then a heavier sand wedge head. They are all the same. Now, Wishon's design in the single length model is to be as wide fitting as possible. So it's a little bit larger head. In the 8 through the sand wedge, use an 8620 cast carbon, and it's in a game improvement design, kind of a larger cavity back with a touch of offset, between the hosel and the front leading edge there. Let's see if we can give you a good view of that. So it has a touch of offset there, a little bit larger design, but the idea is that all of your irons become either a 7 or an 8 iron length. Most of you, if you have a favorite iron, it's somewhere between your 7, 8, 9. And so I fit people into, the length of a 7 iron for them or the length of an 8 iron. There's some fitting options here that lets me manage with swing weights and total weights and things of that nature. But the idea behind single length irons is that every iron is the same, and it's a consistency issue. If you hit your 8 iron consistently, well, let's build your 5 iron to be those exact specifications from a fitting standpoint. 85% of the distance of your irons comes from the loft of the club, not the length of the club, nor even the weight of the club. And so that being known, the modern manufacturing were able to do some things that has not been able to be, they haven't really mastered with this style of concept in years previous. It's not a new concept, but with some of our modern manufacturing and putting some of the best brains in thinking behind the single length concept, Wishon's really done some unique things. Let me show you why. In the the lob wedge through the 8 iron, you've got a traditional game improvement type cavity back that's cast from 8620. Has a great soft feel. Most of your OEM wedges are made of 8620, so it's common material, very well suited. But as I talked about on the 771 model, the long irons on the Sterling single length clubs are a spring face design. So the 7 through the 4 iron on the Sterlings is spring face. And again, we talked about how the spring face shows a little higher trajectory. And so even though you have a little bit shorter of I think this is a 6 iron here, you have a little bit shorter of a 6 iron, it's an 8 iron length, well, you can still get the height because of the spring face technology. And you've got, the weight kind of down low helps that shaft kick forward a little bit. And so Wishon's really done this right. I'm very familiar with all of the single length offerings out there, and from a full design concept, these are the best designed single length heads available to you because Wishon uses an engineered concept to get those gaps right in the longer irons by utilizing the spring face technology. Some of the other companies will talk about how they're using a little softer tip or they're using a little bit different lie angle. That's all fine and good, but the beauty behind the single length iron is that every iron is identical, and so that you use one swing when you've got an iron in your hand. I play these, and there's no going back, at least right now. Never say never. But right now, I have no intention of going back to a traditional set of clubs. Once you wrap your head around the idea that when you have an iron in your hand, you have an iron in your hand. You don't have an 8 iron, you don't have a 9 iron, you don't have to make the adjustments for the clubs that you normally would have to do. And so that's some of the high-tech, unique offerings that we're able to do at Summer Haze Custom Golf. Again, like I say, I wake up every day with the intention of helping people solve problems in their golf game through better fitted equipment. Thanks, and we're going to move on to some other club heads, some wedges and some hybrids, and then fairways, and ultimately the driver. But thanks for watching. Hope you are enjoying these. Bye.